Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Today we are talking to Mr. J. Manfred Weischel. He is an author. He is a self-published author. He is a screenwriter, an award-winning screenwriter, as it turns out. And he is also the creator of a new anthology that has recently gone into commercial availability, Sword and Scandals, or if you would be so kind as to show the people at home what they're talking about.
Right. Well, this is the paperback here of Sword and Scandal. The cover depicts a fight between a barbarian and a female barbarian. The barbarian has stolen the woman's top and he's holding it up, gloating very happily, but he doesn't know. He's so cocky that he doesn't know she's about to give him the kill blow.
Or make him severely less cocky, depending on where she aims. Well,
and it's an anthology. These are the authors here, and this is the back cover. And there's also a hardcover.
There it is. Also available in digital for fine folks who prefer to keep their libraries a little bit less physical than we do. There's quite some nice selections right there behind you.
And you were a backer of this. You were a digital backer.
I was curious, I have to admit. This is definitely, I'm always on the lookout for, interesting takes on sword and sorcery. And this one, being entirely composed of not safe for work versions of the genre, is definitely going to be interesting interesting at the very least. And you did have some good ones in there.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, the concept is it's an anthology of NSFW heroic fantasy. That's not safe for work. Mm-hmm. So where, other publications, you look at the guidelines and they're like, well, you really have to keep it PG-13, maybe like a soft R, but not too much sex. Violence is okay as long as you don't go too far. I didn't want any of that. I just wanted people to go as far as they could, and but still write good stories. Because as an editor, I have editorial taste, and I hope it's good editorial taste. So I also wanted just really, really quality stories, and I also just wanted crazy, wild stories. People who are experimenting and having fun with the genre and trying new things and fun things. So, I really wanted it all. And
because I think one of the main through lines, aside from the fact that, all the naughty stuff, is also having stories that have a good sense of humor, because I think they all have that in common, having a bit of a humorous take on the genre in that regard, a bit irreverent.
Yeah, most of them are funny stories. The humor is a little more subtle in some of them than in other ones. And so, like the first story, the Jim Lee story, The Gateway of Pleasure. I think that's a funny story. Maybe a lot of people won't quite get the humor, but normally you have like the knight. He's very chivalrous. He saves the damsel in distress, but he's not doing it for any like reward or to get anything. It's because he has chivalry and he has a code of honor. Mm-hmm. And, the damsel's like, oh, thank you. You can now be my protector. But, in this one, he rescues the damsel and then they start fucking. It's crazy. And I'm not sure, like, if you're not so familiar with chivalric romance, if you'll get the irony that's in there, but it's very subtle humor. And other stories had a very overt kind of humor, like shaven beards was it was jokes. It was
you literally have that in that one, the female barbarian of the heroine taking a dwarf by his dick and smashing him around the hall of the bar with it. Well, he doesn't get smashed with his dick. She's holding onto it and smashing him around like frickin' Loki getting tossed around by Thor. Only it's going to leave more of a mark, to say the least, when he finally snaps back to consciousness.
Yeah, that was really great. Like, the moment I got to that scene, I knew I was going to buy the story. I could have just...
Which is illustrated in the book. I can't show it. I think there's only one picture in that book I can show on YouTube, and it's a guy with a bunch of cats. From one story, it turns out that guy's a complete asshole. But that's about the cover, and that image is about the only ones I think I can show on YouTube without potentially getting flagged for something.
There's the one of the harem of all whatever his name is, the one thousand and one nights one.
Mhm.
That one is just a guy wrestling in a Catwoman. That one you can show too. But
All right, we'll
most
be
of
able
his
to do that
illustrations,
one.
most of
Yeah,
his illustrations are not safe for work. You can't show them
no.
on YouTube.
Uh, well, definitely not on YouTube. On Pornhub, maybe, but not on YouTube. That's for sure.
Well,
I
I
I
keep
do
on.
appreciate the fact that you had the single artist doing the art for all the different stories. I do appreciate that kind of continuity of art style over multiple different stories in an anthology or in RPGs or any kind of book like that.
Yeah, Appelmonster, or however you say his name, he did a terrific job. He's a really amazing artist. Unfortunately, he's not available for the next one for personal reasons. So I'm looking for an artist right now. But I've already got the cover for the next one. I had an artist do the painting, but I just need someone to do the interiors for the next one. But he did a terrific job. He's
Mhm.
a classically trained artist at a European art academy. And he was actually, I think he was an architect before he was an artist. And, I mean, he's a great figure artist. The women he drew, like, the reason I'm having trouble finding an artist for the next one for Jungle Scandals is because I keep on comparing everything I look at to his art, and I know I'm not going to find another artist like him. I'm just not, especially since I don't have a huge budget. Like, I've looked into some artists, but my budget is like, $600 for the project, and the work he gave me is worth thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
So there's I'm having trouble finding a replacement. He's so amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's always the difficulty with those kinds of things, trying to find high quality, but when you're operating at a budget, you pretty much are have that limitation.
Yeah, it's and like the everything he gave me was crazy. Like, he did the cover illustration for my last book, Into the Bush. I don't know, like, if you look at my website, there's a girl.
I've seen it. Yes.
The scene is set inside a 300-mile long giantess's vagina. She's lying on her back. So the characters are inside, and the Jennifer, the heroine of the Action Girls series, is being held down by gigantic bacteria, which are also enlarged. And they're holding her down with their tentacles, and the villain Cletus Albright, they're ripping her clothes off. She's in her bra, and the villain Cletus Albright is standing over her, like about to like undress so that he can rape her. And that's the scene illustrated on the cover of my book, Into the Bush, which is a sequel to Jungle Jitters. But Apple Monster, his art is just so good. Um, I don't even know which one I like best. Like, and what I like about it is, can I show some? Like, will
Yeah.
that get
Well,
flagged?
yeah. What you
I
can
mean,
anyway.
if we just show it, like, it won't get flagged. Like,
Oh,
I'll
it can. Yes, and trust me.
just like opening up the book, like the machine learning algorithms aren't that good.
I
They're
can't
not.
can't risk it. Sorry,
Uh,
but people just have to buy your book in order to see it.
yeah, you can buy it. The illustrations are in the physical cover copies, and the non-physical. Actually, you know what? Maybe the David J. West story. That one has like a little bit of butt in it. It's really
Okay, a
not.
little bit of I think should be able to
A
pull
little
it.
bit of butt right here. Like this one. This one I think I can show you.
Yeah, that one works.
This one's good.
Yeah.
And let's see. You know what? The Vermina's creature one. That one I can show. That one. This is Bitter Kerala, Vermina's creature. She is a three-time Hugo nominee.
Hmm.
So this is the illustration for her story. This is, so I should say what these are. I should discuss these. This is the villainess. Her name is Vermina, and she has like a toady, like a henchman named Wormwort. And Wormwort like worships her, like worships the ground that she walks on, like wants to be like a pimple on her face. Like,
Oh
and
boy.
so she tortures him. And right now she's stepping on his face, and she's throwing him table scraps that he's happily eating because he loves her so much.
Uh,
And
Somebody,
this
he's a
one,
relationship counselor.
let's go back to Abduction from the Seraglio right here, David J. West. So like this is a thief. He's been hired to kidnap a woman from a brothel, from a harem, I mean, from a castle, and she does not want to be kidnapped. She does not
Quite
want to.
happy being where she is.
So that's a comedic story by David J. West, who is really like one of the prolific sword and sorcery authors right now. He's been around for a long time. On message boards in the early internet, talking about Robert E. Howard to the present. So
Yeah.
he's really a classic.
Yeah. Well, speaking of origins, how did you get into the whole writing business?
Oh my goodness. Like I always wanted to be a writer and I always knew I wanted to be a writer. And let's see, like I think I'm gonna cut like I spent like 10 years in Hollywood. And you knew this because you researched me. I'm like, how the heck did you know that? But
You won
you actually
best screenwriter for at the Shockfest. What is it? The Shockfest Film Festival, I believe it was called.
that's
Yeah,
right. That's
Shockfest
right.
Film Festival, 2011. That's the one I know about here from watching your previous interview you did.
Oh, wow.
You said you won 3 times, as I recall.
Yeah, I did. I won that 3 times. Those were unproduced screenplays that I won for. They were horror screenplays, and that was a very long time ago. I used to live in Hollywood. I used to be cool, you know? I used to be like really cool. I'm not now I'm really boring. Because like people who write and who take themselves seriously and take what they do seriously are very boring people. Like I'm not fun anymore. Like if like you're somebody from my past from Hollywood who's like watching this just out of curiosity, you're like, I wonder what Jonathan Weichsel is doing now, and you just click on this like I'm so boring right now. Like I never go out. Like I don't do anything. Like I just read and write and that's it.
Yeah,
Like
there are worse things.
yeah. So I used to be really crazy. I used to be like insane. Like my behavior probably would have alarmed you. You wouldn't even want me on this pod. I'd be like on here drunk. I'd be like, I know it's a good idea to do before this podcast. I'll just get wasted and then I'd come on from all over the place. Like you wouldn't even want me around. I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be functioning.
Well,
Um,
I'm glad I haven't met you at that point of your life then, because that would have been really, really, really awkward.
Well, it's actually, I mean, like, it's bad, but it's also good because, like, like you struggle, you learn, you grow. Like, people who don't like hit like low points in their life, they don't like reach higher points. They don't like, reach higher levels of like maturity or awareness
Mm.
or anything like that. They just kind of stay where they are. So you probably should have a couple wild years.
Can't
It's
learn from your mistakes if you never make any.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was saying how I became a writer. So I'd been living in Hollywood and writing the screenplays and entering them in contests and winning the contests, and that wasn't really doing anything for me. And so it was maybe like 2017, and I'd always been like a very heavy reader. I read a lot of books. I always have read a lot, and so like I really wanted to start writing like short stories and submitting them to markets. And I started looking at what was out there, and first I kind of discovered, the mainstream stuff, like, because I remember when I was a kid, what did I read? I read Analog. I read the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. I read Asimov's, and I read others that aren't around anymore too. So those were the first ones that I looked at. So I just went to the newsstand because there's newsstands in LA, and I found them on the shelves, and I picked them up and I bought them, and they were horrible. I couldn't even see myself wanting to write something like that. Like, so I kind of started looking at what else there was, and Kursova had just started publishing, and I started reading Kursova, and I really dug what they were doing there. I really enjoyed the stories, and they were, and even if they didn't like always succeed. Like I could see what the magazine was trying to do. So I started writing and submitting to Cursova probably around 2016. My first submission was rejected, but then my second one was accepted. That was Going Native. And so that, I guess it was later because that was published in 2018. So I must have submitted that in 2017 because that's how he does submissions, like the year before for the next year.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I started like submitting regularly to Cursova whenever there was an open submission. And around like 2000, like, so I did that for like a couple years, and I got interested in writing longer stuff. So like I kind of learned about self-publishing, and I'd known about self-publishing before, but I always thought it was just like I didn't take it seriously. I thought it was something that people who like like my experience, like I thought people like self-published their book and then went out and said like, hey, my book was published by Amazon, isn't that great? I'm like, because that's like kind of what LA is like people in LA, like if they want to be a model, like instead of like going out for like shoots or auditions, they'll like pay a press to publish a fake magazine with pictures of themselves.
Oh God.
So that and it would be like their name is like the name of the magazine, like their name magazine. And so they would do that and then just like go around and be like, and like I'm not talking about like beautiful like 20 something women. I'm talking about like women in their 60s and 70s. And they'll be like in like bikinis and they'll have like their magazine and they'll say like, this is like my name magazine. And they'll like, like talk about like how they're in a magazine and they'll post on Facebook that they're in a magazine and try to like sell you copies of the magazine, like, wherever. So like, that's kind of what I thought that self-publishing was. But then I started researching it and I saw that other people were doing it. And guess what? That's exactly what it is. But, I do it anyway and I don't care.
I mean, there you go. I mean, ultimately, you got to do what works for you right there. I mean, okay. And really, I hadn't heard about people doing that in Hollywood, but that does not surprise me in the slightest. Let's face
it. No, not at all. It's totally normal.
Yeah. Oh, God. So you start writing, and you have a very particular subject matter, or at least, a very particular way of writing that you go for. Your main series, recurring series, Tales to Make You Vomit. With a title like that, I think people have some idea at least what they're getting into, so thank you for that at least.
That series is over. That one's done. I wrote 3 books and then I did an anthology for the 4th. And I kind of wrapped it up. That series is done. That's more like, extreme horror. While like, a lot of my stuff, like what I mostly write is like, you know what? Fine a second. I'm gonna just get my books out here and show them to you all.
There you go.
Why? Just like use prop. I just saw it.
Yeah, you gotta see what's off camera here.
What's up?
You gotta see what I've got off camera here. I got a baby bouncer on my old computer and a couple of boxes over this side.
Right. So this is Into the Bush. This is the cover by Apple Monster that I told you about right here. This is okay. That is my second action goes. This is Five Maidens on the Pentagram. This is like a horror book. Like my books are like they're funny. They're they're satirical. They're sexy. They can be like violent. They can be serious too. Like I try to do it all. This is Jungle Jitters right here. This is the first Action Girls book. I'm working on the 3rd one. The 3rd one is going to wrap up the trilogy. So like this is book 1, this is book 2, and then book 3 is like I don't have a cover for it yet because I'm working on it.
Yeah. Well, as you said, you already have another anthology you're working on at the moment. So.
And then this is Ibu Go Go. This was my first novel. So after so like the pandemic hit, right? So like I was like, like not doing much. And I was working just a dumb job. And, it was all like, it was stupid. Like they're like, oh, you have to work a job. And then you work a job and it's like a waste of time. So like, why do they always want you to work a job when it's like just going to waste your time and just be boring and you don't accomplish anything and you don't produce anything and you're just sitting there and you just like, it's just for the paycheck. So like it's so dumb. So like the pandemic hit, I'm like, yes, yes, thank you. Like I thought this was like I thought that this happened to save me, okay? Like from like having to work like a stupid job.
Yeah.
So the pandemic hit and I'm like, okay, so I sign up for like every single government like program that I can and I get like all this money, like way more money than I was making in my stupid job. So like I got like all this money and now I got like time to write. So like I sit down and I write like this book and I just like I write all my books, like
Yeah. I was working as a janitor at the time, so I still had to go to work.
oh, that's stupid.
I mean,
I
hell, I
was
was getting a paycheck and I didn't have to pay it back afterwards once the government realized that they gave a bunch of stuff tax free that you have to pay on that. So remember, I'm in Canada. I don't know what the situation was in the U.S., but yeah, you don't fuck around with Revenue Canada.
I don't know about Canada at all. But so this is this I wrote this one. This is Not Far from Eden. It's based on like a myth from the Dead Sea Scrolls. I wrote I wrote well, I can't show you the cover of my short story collection because of YouTube, I guess. But I wrote this. I wrote The Caledonian Boar Hunt. This is based on a Greek myth. Really good
You
book.
do a lot of that actually. It's by taking inspiration from either ancient history, myth.
Yeah,
You have the what was it? I think it was the third Tales to Make You Vomit thing was based on the practice of taking Japanese skulls in his war trophies during World War II. That was a
right.
interesting thing. I mean, some of the pictures from that ended up in Life magazine of all places. I mean,
Yeah,
that is messed up in many ways.
yeah. It was based on the photographs. So like in World War II, US soldiers used to collect Japanese skulls. And this is like a common practice. They would like they would take them, they would bleach them with they would like scrub them, boil them to get all the skin off. Then they would put them in a big mesh bag, and on the boats they would put them over the water into the water so that the water would polish them.
Mhm.
And then they would take them out, and they get these nice white polished skulls, and then they would like nail them to like gurneys or like just like pose them for photographs or like put them on stakes and like be like beware Japanese in like big letters, handwritten
Yikes.
letters. So like I collected all of the photographs that I could find on the internet and I kind of strung them together into a into that novel. Savage Headhunters is the name of the novel. And if you look at my Substack, I posted all the photographs that I found, and the I think I did a really good job adapting them into a novel. That's actually one of my best books. It's like the third book in a series, and it wasn't even like the series wasn't even my most popular book. So not many people have read Savage Headhunters compared to my other books, but it's actually like I swear, like even if you haven't read the rest of the series, just pick up Savage Headhunters because like it's actually like no joke one of my best books. It's really good.
Yeah. I mean, I tried getting into the other ones.
Yeah.
Really not my cup of tea. It's simply just,
No,
not
no.
my thing, really. That one I could see myself getting a bit more into because, I mean, war's already bad enough. You can't really, fiction is a hard time keeping up, frankly.
Yeah, it was kind of prescient. Like in World War II, like the U.S. collected the Japanese skulls, and the Japanese created a lot of like wartime propaganda about that.
Mm.
But the Japanese were also like beheading and eating American prisoners of war. So the
Yeah, not to mention with the
Americans,
stuff with bioweapons and stuff like that, Unit 731, various war crimes in that regard.
yeah, but the Americans were making like propaganda about the Japanese like eating them because that actually did happen. So I took the American propaganda about the Japanese and the Japanese propaganda about the Americans, and I put them both into like the same book. So like it's very nuanced. It has both sides of the story.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's an interesting way of doing it, like taking everybody's view of the other and taking it literally in the sense like, okay, regardless of whether or not it's actually true in reality, propaganda being propaganda, it's always hard to see who's exaggerating what and stuff like that. But what if it was true
Yeah.
on all sides? Just, like how much of a messed up, horrifying situation would that be?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of just describe the book.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't even need to read it. You already know what it's about. But
Yeah.
yeah, the ones that are good, like yeah, like the Tales to Make You Vomit. I don't know. I don't really like that series was okay, but it's not like my main stuff is like Ibu Gogo and Not Far from Eden and Into the Bush and Jungle Jitters and Five Maidens on the Pentagram is really good too. This is one of my funniest books. This one's really good if you like funny
Yeah.
books.
So definitely
Um,
think you're do a lot of horror content, but they're not necessarily horror novels as
Yeah,
such.
I kind of agree. Like I sell my books on Godless, which is like it's a horror bookstore that like
Mhm.
brands itself with like satanic imagery. And like it's like the hardcore like horror crowd.
Yeah,
And
kind of
but
splatterpunk kind of
yeah,
vibe.
yeah, exactly. And I do well there and I enjoy selling my books there. And I think it's a really good platform and I like it because it's independent and it's anti-censorship. But I do tend to agree that like my stuff isn't like horror. It's like it has a horror element and I think it has enough of a horror element that I can like sell it to like, horror people. Like even if you look at the cover of this, like look at this dude. Like
He's in trouble.
he's gored, he's gutted, he's there's so like but it's not like horror. And like even like sometimes like this one is just a funny, like absurdist little comedy about like work, like a job. It's not horror at all. So I do like a lot of different kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking as now that you've gone from just being a writer to being also an editor of other writers, when you're selecting for, like, for instance, Sword and Scandal like this, you have a particular vision of where you want this, the kind of tone and direction you want for an anthology. How do you go about the selection process for coming up with the authors and stories that you're going for?
Well, I put out a call for submissions, and the most important part of that is having a clear editorial vision and being able to express that in the call for submissions, because that allows writers to read it and to try to interpret it and come up with, their stories rather than just sending like whatever they have in their trunk pile. Because I think like that's a big problem with a lot of these anthologies that I see the calls for submissions for is that they don't have a clear editorial vision. And that's like fundamentally what makes the difference between a good editor and a bad editor, regardless of what genre you're in. Like you know what you're looking for. So, what I'm looking for is like writing like mine. Like I think in my call for submissions, when I said, like, I mean, I kind of paraphrased it like in the introduction to the book too. Like like when I say like what these stories are, when I say you know so I hate being old. I
I'm
say
getting there.
so what is all this new genre about, you may ask? Well, scandals are sexually explicit but not erotica. They are subversive without becoming grimdark. They are bawdy without becoming transgressive. They are experimental but retain the fun of a pulp story. They are modern but retain the wonder of a weird tale. They incorporate all types of humor, satire, farce, surreal, character-driven, and black. Scandals are for thrill-seeking readers who want something unconventional, outrageous. They are adventures to scandalize. So like when I wrote that, that's pretty much what I put in the call for submissions, but kind of rewritten for the introduction to the book. Like I'm describing what I'm looking for, but I'm also describing my own books.
Yeah,
Like,
what
that's
you're
the
looking for as a
yeah,
reader as well as an author.
yeah. Yeah, and what I do as a writer too,
Mhm.
because like what I'm really trying to do is get more writers to do what I'm doing as a writer. That's what I'm really looking for. Like I do something very specific as a writer, and I'm trying to get more writers to do that thing that I do to create it to make something bigger than myself. Like John W. Campbell, like he had a very clear vision of what he wanted, and he wrote some of it too before he became an editor. And then he became an editor, and he was very good at it. And he selected stories based on a very clear vision of hard science fiction. Or Farnsworth Wright. Yeah, I'm sorry, John W. Campbell is the editor of analog science fiction
Yeah, Forms with the
anthology.
Right was for Weird Tales.
Yeah, Farnsworth Wright was Weird Tales, and he also had a clear vision. And
Was he
he
also a published author before he was the editor of Weird Tales? Because I'm wondering, if having your own body of literary work before one becomes an editor is beneficial, perhaps, to that kind of discernment that you have as an editor.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Like Weird Tales, like I think he had a clear vision for what he wanted to do, but Weird Tales didn't really become good until it started publishing H.P. Lovecraft. Before that it was kind of bland, and he was the one that really elevated it to the next level. And the rest of the writers at Weird Tales, followed him. And
Yeah. Namely Robert E. Howard, Clark Ashton Smith, and various others. Yeah.
and they all wrote for other magazines. Like Lovecraft was writing for the Muncie Mags before he was writing for Weird Tales, and he was sending in letters to Weird Tales too. Weird Tales. So that he was already involved. But no matter what you're at, and I chose those because they're very different editors. But like no matter what your editorial vision is, like it's important that you have one. That's what's important. Like if you look at hold on a second right here. Hold on.
Good doggy. Good doggy.
Like Forrest
There we
Gold,
go.
man. Forrest Gold is like he was the editor of Galaxy. Like so good. He edited it. He did it for the first 10 years, and he had his problems. He had agoraphobia and some problems like that. And so he turned it off. I think Frederick Poole was next, maybe. But there were several editors, and each one brought their own vision, and changed the direction of the magazine, and it kept them going for quite a while through a few editors. But then eventually, like, it just lost its vision. And that's the important thing is
I think it's hard for any kind of periodical like that if you lose that sense of direction for it to continue, at least in the form that it was up to that point. Because you do need that vision if you're going to not just be able to find good works to publish, but also attract people who are interested in publishing with you. If you have that discernment, that vision, then that is going to attract like-minded authors who are going to want to get their stuff published there.
Yeah, exactly. So that step one is just having a vision. So I put out the call for submissions, and I gave the writers a month to come up with their story, and then another month to submit them. So really, the writing period was 2 months for these stories. And I started getting some really good submissions, and I got a lot of submissions. Some of them weren't so good. I was really buried with submissions. Like all that month, like all I did was read these submissions. That was like my only activity. I got like no writing done. Well, actually, maybe that's not true because I did have my own story. No, I had written my story before I read the submission. So yeah, all I was doing that was reading. And so like I had the ones I liked and that I put and I put aside, and then the ones I didn't like or that I couldn't use for some reason, I sent them the rejection letters right away, and I held on to a lot that I liked. And at the end, of course, I had more stories that I liked than I could use. So I started looking, well, which ones are the ones that I really can't live without, and do they fit together as an anthology, and do they kind of complement each other? And so, the anthology slowly started to come together, and I could see like this story belongs here and this story belongs there. Like Jim Lee's story, like I knew I wanted it as the first, just because like it starts like a little bit slow and then just like goes from like 0 to 60 to 0 to 90 in like 3 seconds. Like it's
I like the
crazy.
way that one was written. It's got that sword and sorcery kind of voice to it, which is something I really appreciate when I'm reading it.
Yeah, that was really good. Like they're all good. Like every story in this book is like just like a banger. Like everyone, and they're all different.
Like his is medieval Vietnam kind of inspired. Yeah. There's another one that is, say, 1001 Nights, Arabian Nights kind of thing. There's the different settings. They're not all like traditional Howardian sword and sorcery in that regard.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to, I didn't want it to be a book for genre purists. I wanted it to be a book for people who are looking for eclecticism and for just like a lot of like people who want to see the genre grow and change and develop in new and different ways, and people who just want who are thrill-seeking readers who just want something new and different.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, there is quite a history of, shall we say, well, not safe for work, but definitely some salacious content in the sword and sorcery genre, especially during the '80s when you had a whole bunch. Not just in terms of paperbacks that were coming. I've got a couple of examples in the bookcase back there that would make a couple of people blush. But yeah, there's a series called Raven, Sword Mistress of Chaos. That one's got quite a bit of. It's like, imagine if Red Sonja didn't have any kind of restrictions who she could bang.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of like
There's
that.
another one like that called Diadem from the Stars. That series. This one is it's not in really good, but it's about this girl, and she kind of lives on this like sword and sorcery planet, and she kind of like has a boyfriend, but then like there's this diadem that like has falls from the stars, and she gets raped a lot. She goes on an adventure, and like every single like adventure just like involves her being raped somehow, and like this is a very long series.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, if we're gonna go into, we got to mention like John Norman's Gore series as
yeah,
well, which
gore.
is like,
Yeah,
when people think of fantasy that focuses a lot on the sex stuff, then, or at least focuses a lot on a particular kind of sex stuff in
yeah.
this case, well, that's the one that comes up a lot. Although I have to admit, having read a couple of the first ones, it wasn't like that at first, really. It was very much like, weird kind of, almost like, Barosian, you're earthling on another planet, dealing with strange kind of cultures and stuff like that. It's only as the series went on that things got more and more and more crazy in that regard, and you kind of like you say, a change in vision in that regard.
Yeah, that there's a few kind of series like that, but Gore definitely comes up as like Piers Anthony is another one. Like people like they read the first few Piers Anthony books, and like I don't understand why people have a problem with that, and then they come up to like the color of her panties or something, and they're like, wait, this is a children's book. you know,
Uh,
and I probably have books like that.
hmm.
Let's see, where's my Piers Anthony? Like, oh, yeah. Don't read this book.
Heaven sent. Okay, it's noted.
Yeah, no, I mean you can read it. There's nothing wrong with reading a book. But you got
You got to
I
know
mean,
what you're getting into before you
yeah,
get into it.
the thing is like they're children's books, and they're marketed as children's books. But you know what,
Hmm.
whatever. Um,
Well, I think there's quite a few people who would take that as not a whatever for
yeah,
sure. I mean, that's for sure.
sure. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
but
remember there was this
it's
one.
the same.
Yeah, I remember there's this one short novel that I read a while back, a long time ago. It was called "The Last Barbarian." I
Mhm.
thought, oh, cool, sword and sorcery thing. I'm just gonna read that. And they really should have marketed it better, because it just starts out normal. It just gets more and more. I think the idea was, starts out normal and gets more and more extreme as it's going along,
Mhm.
until it reaches the point where the main hero turns into a dragon with a gigantic razor sharp dick and stabs the villain with it, and it's like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm not going to be reading anything from this publisher ever again, because it's just like, okay, okay, I see what you're going with, but you could have mentioned it beforehand, so I knew what I was getting into, so I actually got something I wanted to read.
Sure. Well, I think that in terms of marketing, like in Hollywood, there's like something called like the promise of the premise, which I guess is more of a writing term, but it's also a marketing term. Where like if you promise something, you have to deliver the thing that you promise. So like
Mhm.
if you buy a book where there's like a dragon on the cover, and then like you open the book and it's not a dragon, it's a spaceship. Then you're like, wait, why is there a dragon on the cover? And I'm reading a book about a spaceship. And the same thing kind of works with like with sex, I think. Like if you publish a book and you say like, oh, this book is called Sword and Scandal, and there's like a topless barbarian woman on the cover, and then like you open up the book and like it's just completely clean and there's no
Yeah,
sex in it at all.
it's
Like
all
people
about a political scandal.
oh yeah, people are gonna be mad, man. People are gonna be angry. Like
Yeah,
it's like what if this book didn't have a boar in it, or what if this book didn't have a woman tied to a pentagram while a demon is like attacking her? Like Or what if this book didn't have a woman whose clothes were ripped off by like an ape man? Like you'd buy the book and be pissed because like you just bought it and you saw the cover and like the thing that was on the cover wasn't in the book.
Yeah. I've
So
known a lot of authors to complain a bit, some authors to complain a bit about the restrictions of genres to be, too, limiting for what their particular vision of a story or art that they want to do. But really, genres don't exist for the author. They're there for the readership. They're there to give the readership some idea of what the hell they're, looking for so they know what to get.
I mean, I'm an experimental author, and when I write my stories, I always experiment. But I've been writing a long time, and I think that my readers understand that, and they're looking for that. Like
Yeah.
when they buy my books, like if I wrote a paint by number book, or even if I published paint by number stories in like an anthology, I think my fans would be kind of pissed off at me because they expect me to innovate, they expect me to try new things and to take risks, and
Mhm.
that I feel is what keeps literature exciting, and that's what I get really excited by. Like and when I'm reading in my literature and in my reading and in my writing too. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to, just take risks and experiment and play and have fun.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're gonna be able to tell when the person reads the end product. That's for sure.
Yeah, and there's like, and I know what you're talking about with like, writers who are like, oh, I'm so restricted by my genre. But like, you're self-publishing, so you can do whatever you want.
Hmm.
There's no restrictions when you're self-publishing. They may think they are, and like, they say like, oh, well, there's the readers, but that's because the way people market books, which is not a good. Like, if you go to like the book marketing, 20 books to 50K, they're going to say like, oh, well, find a genre that you like on Amazon, read 40 books in that genre, study it, look at the beats, and then write like that exact same thing. Look at the covers that they have and put on like the same kind of
Ugh.
covers that those
Oh
books have.
God, don't get
And
me started
then,
on the covers.
but they're going to say like, but do it as an MVP. That means minimally viable product, which means don't try to make it a masterpiece. Just make it good enough, and put that in a book, and then sell it to people, and all of these whale readers are going to buy it and they're going to love it because it's exactly like the thing that they love. And
Ugh.
like if I were doing that with my life, then like I might as well be working some crappy job like I was before the pandemic. Like why not? Like
Mhm.
why do you want to be a writer? Why do you want to be a writer if like you just want to do the same thing that everybody's doing and you just want to do a bad job at it? Like what's the point? Like and it's this whole like mindset on the internet of like just like being good enough and trying to fit in, and like the protruded nail is the one that gets hammered, as the Chinese said. Like I don't believe that. Just be the protruding nail. Like screw it, who cares? you know
Yeah, I mean, even if you're doing something, if you are one of those people who just enjoys the same thing as a lot of other people, don't be to the minimum. To be the best version of that at the very least, you know.
Yeah, and there are writers who try to do their best with everything that they do. Like with my anthology, and hopefully with my future anthologies too. Like I tried to pick the best stories that I could, and I think like the stories in here, like you can really feel how exuberant many of the authors were writing these stories. Like they were
Yeah,
very excited writing
yeah,
them,
they're
and
having
that
fun
was
too.
yeah, and that's contagious. And I think when you're reading this book, I think like it's a very contagious feeling in this book. I think you get swept up in just like the joy that all of the authors put into writing their stories.
Yeah, yeah, because have to imagine for a lot of them, unless they're specialized in this particular type of story, many of them probably haven't had a chance to publish anything like this. Just something like completely new for them because obviously a lot of sort of the fantasy literature does include a bit of a sexual component, but often not quite as front and center in this case.
And I've been hearing that from a few of the authors that I published, where they say, well, thank you, because if I didn't see this call for submission, I wouldn't have written this story because nobody else would have published it. And even if I had written it, it would have never gotten published. So, I guess one of the authors who said that was Austin Worley, who wrote the last one, He Who Sows. It's the last story in the book. It's the grand finale. It is a crazy story. It's about these, female thieves who have some like debts to pay off, and they go into this like Saturnalia like orgy. Okay. Where like all around them is this orgy, and they're sneaking through, and they got to steal the phallus from a stone fertility idol. It's like this giant cock, and they reach out, and so like it's this giant statue, and they like take it off, and then like it like enchants them somehow, and because they're chicks, they kind of like start
Do
playing with
what
it.
one usually does with it.
Yeah, it was. Oh my god, like that story was nuts. It's like, oh my god, I've got to publish this story. It was great.
uh, yeah, I mean, there was a point in time where this type of sword and sorcery story was a bit more common, like I said, in the '80s and stuff like that. Not just in terms of publishing, but also in terms of course, cinema, which is the whole
Yeah.
Conan exploitation genre is rife for this kind of thing. Was rife for this kind of thing, to its detriment sometimes, because the focus was often on that instead of making a good story, since they were so quick tendency to cut corners and slash budgets quite often.
Those old sword and sorcery movies were really good. Like Conan the Barbarian is one of the greatest movies ever made, and
it's got John with John Milius at the helm. I mean, come on, it was hard not to be great.
Absolutely,
that guy is a legendary director.
Yeah, absolutely. And then even some of the lower budget ones, like the Deathstalker movies, those are good. Those are good movies.
I like the first one because I like my sword and sorcery when it takes itself a bit seriously. I thought the second one was just like way too comical for its own good, at least for my tastes in terms of movies.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I can see why people enjoy that one too. It's definitely got some fun moments.
Yeah, and then there's other ones too, but like today, like there's like editorial guidelines, and like like they don't want to offend anybody, and everybody wants to play it safe, and nobody wants to stick out, and like you see it like young people today like can get really offended by sex in the media, like and not all young people, but it's something that happens enough that it's like a noticeable trend that people observe in society. And there's this idea that if a book has sex in it, that it must be porn. And I have some reviews of a few of my books where like the review says like this is porn, and like, and they just like somebody read this book with this cover and wrote a 1-star review complaining that it had sex in it. This book with this
cover. I mean,
so why
with a cover like that, it is kind of surprising. Well, no, because people do stupid things, but yeah, I mean, this is one I was mentioning. I briefly mentioned, like the Don't Get Me Started on covers. The fact that covers so many fantasy and science fiction book covers these days don't actually show much of what the hell's going on in the book at all.
Yeah,
or don't look cool. Like often, and you see this also with movie posters and stuff like that. But it's really important because movies at least have trailers and stuff like that. A book, if you don't have a cover to judge it by, you got pretty much nothing.
Yeah, I agree, and I hadn't thought of that. Like movies do have trailers, books don't. So you really do need like, because all my covers are illustrations from scenes in my books. So like what you see is what you're gonna get. There's no excuse to pick up my book and be like surprised by the content. But people have this attitude about like this theory about graphic design where like like it has to do with like where the things are put on the book, and like like the placement and the fonts and the letters, but it's just really boring, and people think that they're doing it to save money on an artist, but they're not. They're just paying their money to like bad graphic designers.
The rule should be simple. Can this cover appear spray airbrushed onto someone's van?
Oh wow.
If so, it is a good cover.
I
If
like
not, fuck you. Redo it.
I
Continue
like that.
until it can be put there and it's like a barbarian babe riding a polar bear or something, you know?
This is like a van from the 70s. This is like one of those 1970 what were they called? Like they used their vans as like bachelor pads back then.
Yeah.
They would like trick them out inside. They would like
Disco
put,
ball shack carpeting.
yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frazetta babe on the side.
Yep. Yeah. That was those. Everything is so boring now. Like the way it looks. Like design is so bad right now. Just like even like the cars, they just look the same. They don't. There's nothing to differentiate one thing from another. It's really sad. We live in a very bland world, a very boring world,
Well, I suppose it
and
depends which part of it you're in. There are certain parts of the world right now that are a little bit too interesting for some people's tastes, I think.
yeah, that's true too. We're lucky to live, in countries with no
Yeah.
wars.
There's a reason why may you live in interesting times is a curse.
Yep, yeah, that's an old Chinese curse.
Mm.
But who knows? Our times could get interesting. And anyway, like if we didn't live in interesting times, I wouldn't have gotten to write my books because, as I said, so COVID came and shut everything down. So I'm like, yes, I don't have to go out anymore. I don't have to go to work anymore. I don't have to see people anymore. I can just do what I want to do and write. So like, I put a lot of work into not only like learning how to really write novels, but also how to self-publish and how to
Mm.
put together like because if you look at Sword and Scandal, like it's laid out nicely too, like the way the covers are, the chapter headings are done, and,
Yeah, good formatting, good,
the way this is done. Like, I got Drew Stepek, the owner of Godless, doing my letters, and he does the letters for most of my books, the design, and it's just like it's done well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, quality of presentation is a lot to it as well. I mean, if a book is hard to read or just, poorly formatted or anything like that, it gets in the way regardless. It's like, filming a movie and someone forgot to focus the camera. You can have the greatest performance of all time, but you can't see the damn thing.
Yeah, which does happen quite a lot. And like it's like you have like the indie thing, and you have like traditional publishing, and you have like traditional like indie film and studios and
Mm.
all that. And the people in the traditional sphere right now like very just out of touch. Like they don't know what people want, and so like they have to, like back in the 90s, okay, they used to hire people called cool hunters, okay, like the executives. Right? And what a cool hunter's job was to do was to go around and like, hey, so let's say like I'm a cool hunter and I'm gonna go and hang out with the cool kids. I'm like in my like 20s or 30s, but I'm gonna hang out with like the teenagers, okay? And I'm gonna like, maybe go to like a punk show with them. And so I go to the punk show with the teenagers and I see like oh well, this person has like dinosaur painted on the side of their shoe, and then like I go to like another group of cool kids, maybe they're like into fashion, and I go to like the fashion runway show with them, and I say, oh well, this model has like a dinosaur like on her backpack or something. And so like then I go to like 15-year-old boy's bedroom and I say, oh look, he has a dinosaur on his wall. So I make that connection, dinosaur, 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 and then I take all these pictures and I put them in a book called a lookbook. I didn't do this. I mean, this is what the cool hunters used to do. And then the cool hunter would bring the lookbook to the executive, and the executives look at, dinosaurs are in this year. I think I'm going to make something like, dinosaurs. Okay. So, and that's how like they were making their decisions in the 90s. So it's not, and even earlier, I think, even probably the 80s, and even Roger Corman. Like Roger Corman made these
Yeah.
decisions the exact same way in the 50s. What Roger Corman would do is he would hire artists to do movie posters.
I know,
And
yeah.
he wouldn't make a movie out of them, but he'd like make like 5 posters, and he'd bring them to the drive-in theater, and he'd bring all the teenagers who are coming to watch the movies, and he'd say, which poster would you rather see a movie of? And the teenagers would say like, oh, the giant crab monster poster. So he's, okay, well, we're going to make this giant monster poster into a movie because that's what the kids want. So like, Roger Corman, he wasn't necessary. I mean, he was very much in touch with the culture, but
Mhm.
he also knew that he needed to do things to remain in touch and to see what was, what people were interested in. And the '90s executives and the '80s executives, of course, they lived in a different world than everybody else did because they're rich and rich people are kind of separated. But they
Not to
were
mention all
they
the
were
cocaine.
yeah. They were intelligent though enough to realize that they needed to kind of study and learn what people wanted and to talk to them. But now people just think that they can look at their Twitter accounts or look at their Facebook accounts and see what people are posting, and then like maybe that is like what's cool now because that's what people are posting, and it doesn't really work that way because that stuff is driven by algorithms that are kind of independent of what people are actually interested in. So
Not
what
to
the
mention the
executive
fracturing that's happened so much due to, everybody's has their different social media feeds, everybody has their different forums, and there is no central vein of culture in many ways for a lot of art to really tap into because, everything's so fragmented in different, genres and subgenres and cultures and subcultures now.
yeah, everything, it's all different. It's like the mirror has been like shattered into a lot of different pieces, and each shard has like a different image on
Yeah,
it. So
but that
like,
does grant an opportunity for independents, such as yourselves, to self-publish things and target specific niches that interest you specifically, as opposed to having to cast the widest net possible to try and catch everybody.
yeah, sometimes I wish that I were able to do that, but I'm too just arrogant. I'm too, I'm too stubborn and too much of an individualist. I really do like, I write my books, and I look for people who are going to be interested in them, and I try to get them in front of people who are going to be interested in them, and to try to, get people reading them so that they'll read more, so that they'll tell their friends about them, write the reviews, put them on their blogs or on social media or even on Amazon or Goodreads, and to get them out there so that other people see them and that maybe other like-minded people are going to pick up the book and read it. And that, like, I'm trying to grow that way. Like, I'm trying to grow like organically and, pull people together from like different groups who might, not be in, who like each group might not be doing the thing that I'm doing, but like within each group, like there's somebody with like a dark enough sense of humor that they're going to appreciate what I'm trying to do, and they'll like kind of hop over and start like contributing to that. And that's
Mhm.
another thing like I'm trying to do like with this anthology is reach out to people, like with my call for submissions, get it in front of the broadest audience that I can, so that I can get people from all of these different groups who just share at least part of my vision, or my ironic sense of humor,
Yeah.
or just like because like one other thing about my books is like like they are dark. Like I do have a dark sense of humor, and even in Sword and Scandal, dark humor is a big part of this book, which I think is,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, I mean, even if someone isn't necessarily into the entire concept, just being like, what, I'm just gonna give this a shot. This is interesting, and just something that they wouldn't necessarily do otherwise because now there's an opportunity for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure, like, there's some stories that I published which are the opposite of that. Like the Jim Lee story, he wrote in his, like, and I put in the introduction to the story that this was part of a series of his, and it was the only story in that series that wasn't published because it had, um, graphic sex in it. And, the Gary Every story, I assume that's an old story because it was written for a guy who died probably 20 years ago. Maybe 10 years ago. But John Fanta, not John Fanta, the son Dan Fanta. So he wrote it for this author. So because the author was of Italian descent, and the author told him the Italian folk story that it's based on. And so, when the author was diagnosed with cancer, he wrote the story, as kind of a present for the author, just because the author had been mentoring him.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume he must have written it a long time ago, because I think that author died in 2000. I don't know, 2004, 2014, or somewhere like something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've gotten the Sword and Scandals out now. You got originally funded through Kickstarter. What's the process like for kickstarting a book like this?
Okay, so you want to know how to do a Kickstarter. So it looks like I made a lot of money on Kickstarter. And I'm going to just say this as a disclaimer, like I broke even, okay?
Mhm.
I raised $3,188, and it all went into the book, which is one of the reasons the book looks so good. But I broke even. So don't say like he made $3,000. Oh boy, he's rich. I'm going to do this and make $3,000 too, because it doesn't work that way.
No.
So the first thing you need to do is you got to write your budget. And, the budget is like you're paying the authors. So how much are you going to pay them? How many, words are you going to buy of fiction? The artist, you're paying the artist for the cover and for the interior illustrations. How much are you going to pay them? How many illustrations? All that. So you have to write your budget. And, you have to get reward tiers. And the reward tiers, involve giving away the ebook or the paperback or the hardcover. Or I did one for the J. Manfred Weischel paperback collection, and I did other reward tiers too. Like there's one where you got to design your own story. So I had a backer who, was really into female soccer and really into watching women get tortured, I guess. And, he asked me to write a story for him, incorporating these elements that he enjoyed. So, I did. And that story wound up in the book. That was one tier. But the tiers where you fulfill a physical book, like the paperback or the hardcover, that costs money because the fulfillment costs money. So you have to put that in the budget too. So you have to figure out like, okay, so if somebody pays $20 for ordering a paperback through Kickstarter, like X amount has to go to fulfill the paperback, and Y amount has to go to, pay the other costs. So how much am I going to have to raise in order to do this project? And it was like $2,500 without interior illustrations, $3,000 with interior illustrations. So I did the $3,000 as a $500 stretch goal to have the illustrations inside.
You got to
So
imagine though, when the more people get physical rewards like that, the more the costs end up ballooning. Just for publishing and shipping, obviously, because you're obviously not just shipping to United States in your case, or whichever country the person's Kickstarter is based in, but anybody in the world can contribute to one of these. So you got to think international shipping, you got to think shipping times, shipping costs, packaging, for depending on how fragile the thing you're shipping is.
okay, so two words: drop shipping. Okay,
Mhm.
with drop shipping, it costs just as much to mail something to the UK or to Canada as it does within the US. Amazon, when you're an author, you can do drop shipping. If you know how to go through your KDP dashboard and do it, it's not hard. The only country where I had to pay more, where I couldn't do that, was Norway. And with Norway, the shipping cost $18 for there was two backers from Norway, and each one cost me extra $18 in shipping. But other than that, like it's really not that bad. Like because everything is print on demand now. So if you live in Australia and you order one of my books like from Amazon, it's not printed in the US and shipped to Australia. It's printed in Australia. And
Mhm.
if I do drop shipping, then I can order that book to be printed in Australia and shipped to you. So that's how I handled all of that. And
Do you
most
find it difficult?
Kickstarters,
Sorry to interrupt, but do you find it difficult to maintain the same quality of print if everybody's getting their stuff printed by different places in different countries?
I mean, Yeah, like even I'm in New Jersey, and when I order copies of my books, there's like two presses that print them. One Amazon printing press is in Connecticut. The one other one is in Delaware. If I order copies for myself through Amazon, the ones that are printed in Delaware like are never the same quality as the ones printed in
Mm.
Connecticut, and it's noticeable. So I so like that can be a problem, but it's like they're gonna have that same problem no matter where they live. Like if you live in Australia and I mean, I don't know, I don't want to pick on Australia. If you live in like
They have enough problems with all the spiders and.
yeah, everything. If you live in like the UK and like you order books, like it's the same book that you're always getting, you know?
Mhm.
So like it's like no quality difference for you there. It's the same one that you would get if you ordered anything.
Mhm.
So, but like without drop shipping, it would be just impossible. And a lot of like Kickstarters don't know this, and that's why they always spend like astronomical fees and like like they're unable to fulfill, or they have to go out of pocket because it goes over budget because they don't realize this. Like you can just ship most places in the world for very cheap, and if there's like one place where it's more like that's not such a big deal because it's only going to be like a few bucks anyway.
Yeah, I find a lot those people that I know who have done Kickstarters will run into that a lot where the costs, if they're not careful, if they haven't done this, there are people I know who have, I've interviewed in the past who have done Kickstarters who are experienced with it and know what they're doing and can, budget appropriately. But there are other people who like end up promising physical rewards or any other stuff like that. And the cost of that, they never take into consideration just how much that can balloon
Yeah.
up depending on how many people go for them at any given campaign.
Yeah, like I raised $3,000 on Kickstarter to do this book. Okay, I paid $600 for prose because the authors were being paid 1 cent a word, and 1 cent was like for 60,000 words is $600. And then, Apple Monster, I think I paid him $160 for the cover painting and $560 for the interior illustrations. And then Drew Stepek, who did the design, the lettering, I think I paid him $35 to do the lettering. And then there was another woman from Australia who I paid to do all the formatting for. There's different formats. See, like
Mm-hmm.
so I have to keep this here and for the paperback, and then like for the hardcover, like it still needs to be like centered. It can't be like off to the side for the hardcover. So I paid her
Yeah.
to do that, and I paid her a little bit, and then with raising like $3,000, I broke even to spend much less than $3,000, right? Because that all comes out to like maybe a little more than half of that. Like if I were shipping it, if I were physically mailing it, if I were ordering the books, putting them in envelopes and mailing it, I would have had to raise, I don't know, maybe $6,000, like $8,000,
Mm-hmm.
like just to do the same thing. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to do that because like, I'm like a $3,000 guy right now. I'm not a $6,000 guy. I don't have like I'm not that big yet. And even if I were, like if I raised $6,000, wouldn't I want to be able to pay the writers more, pay the artists more, you know, um, maybe pay myself a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. Wouldn't I like to do that? So, even so, like, why spend all the money on shipping?
Mm-hmm.
Because I get this, like, so I order like an author copy. Let's say like I ordered the author copies through Amazon to my home, and like the shipping, there's the printing, which is like whatever, and then the shipping to my home. Let's say it was like $6. And so like I put them in an envelope. So I pay like $2 for the envelope. And then like I bring the envelope to the post office and I do the media mail. Maybe it costs like another like $7. So I've added 70 like $9 to the budget, where if I just ship it to them, it's just the cost of printing and then the shipping if I drop ship it, like
Yeah.
instead of like, mailing it. So like it's not the right way to do it the way that and the way they're taught to do it. I know like if in all the Kickstarter courses, they teach you to like order all of these boxes of books and put them in envelopes and like, mail them out. That's the wrong way to do it because all your money is just going to shipping. And that's like a stupid place for the budget to go. The budget should go into the book.
Exactly. Which brings to mind, nowadays you not only have the actual physical book here that you can offer, but digital offerings,
Yeah.
ebooks
Yeah.
and stuff like that. What's the process for getting an ebook made? Because I know a lot of authors go that route rather than physical,
All right, well, I
especially
do
for
the ebooks too.
self-publishing.
I mean, I do the ebooks too, and because you ordered the ebook of Sword and Scandal on Kickstarter. So like I used to use Draft to Digital's free online tool to create my ebooks and my print books too. But the problem with Draft to Digital is like it's like total censorship city, man. Like I was like getting in trouble like for this book or that book. And eventually, like I got to the point where like, I can't have my books on this platform where like they keep on being censored because like I'm trying to use this platform also to create the books using their free online tool. So for this one for Sword and Scandal, I bought free online software. I mean, I'm not free. I bought online software called Atticus. It's $147 for a lifetime subscription,
Oh,
and
that's good.
it's terrific. It
I
is
hate it when
great.
they do like monthly subscriptions for these kinds of software. It's like, just let me buy the damn thing. If you come up with a new version and it's worth it, I'll buy that too. Just let me buy this and be done with it.
I agree, and that's what it used to be like.
Mm.
Like you used to be able to buy Microsoft Word. It was just on a CD, and you own the CD.
Yeah.
And now you have to get a subscription, and it's so stupid and so greedy. But so this software, like, there's a learning curve. It took me a while to learn how to do it, and I was kind of frustrated, tearing my hair out a little bit. But once I learned it, like the end product is so much better than what I was doing for the ebook and for the paper book. And just the way it allows you to work with the internal images was great for me. So I definitely say like go online, get Atticus software. It is like out of this world. It's one of the best purchases that I've made.
What would you say is the most important skill to develop when you're doing your own like formatting and lettering for that kind of in that kind of software? When you're doing it yourself
Uh,
like this
well,
independently.
I mean, I format the book, but with the cover, like I outsource everything. Like I have Drew Steppick doing the letters, and look, he did the letters in the back here too. Like with this, and so I think it's knowing how to hire people. Like for me, like hiring artists, like just like knowing how to look for artists and who are going to do a good job and hiring them, and that like in terms of like formatting it, it's not that hard to format a book really.
Mhm.
It's mostly automatic. Like there's a few choices that you can make, like with the the chapter headings. Like there's like options, and you can combine them and make your own. But you don't really. It's not like manual typesetting anymore.
Mm. Yeah, because obviously when we said the fragmentation of the readership, there's also like a democratization of the tools necessary for self-publishing. Previously, you would have to go through some kind of publishing house because they're the only ones with the
Yeah.
machines and the ability to make the books that you're selling. Nowadays, with ebooks, Kindle and stuff like that, all the different ebook shops out there, I think it's probably never been easier for an independent author. On one hand, yes, it's never been easier for an independent author to get their stuff self-published, but it does mean that the amount of competition out there in that same space has skyrocketed over the years.
So, this idea that people have that like democratic self-publishing is new, isn't exactly true. Like
Mm.
desktop publishing started in the 70s and people were making like, chat books. You know what a chat book is?
Mm.
Like
Yeah,
it's like
but
a little,
for the audience, if they don't know.
yeah, or they were making zines.
Mm.
And no, a chapbook is like a little folded book where like it's kind of like you make it yourself and like you would staple it
Mm.
and you'd make the cover and print out the paper, and like you would use like desktop publishing to make the paper. And people were doing that, in the 70s. They were making zines and they were making chapbooks. People were self-publishing books, like in the 80s, like, just to sell. Look at this. Well, but so people were doing that, and they were able to, develop like fans within like their local communities. It would help if they lived in a big city like New
Yeah.
York or LA or Chicago or whatever. But if they did, or even if they lived in like, a suburb, they were able to go out and sell their books to people at events, because people used to go to like live events, where there
Yeah.
was like a lot of people. And
Yeah. It's like a
so,
band with a bunch of their mixed their tapes
sure,
in the
yeah,
back of the van there.
yeah, they'd have cassette tapes, and they would go to their show, and they would hang out in the parking lot of the show where another band is playing, and they'd be like, "Hey, that band's pretty good. Do you want to hear me? Here's a tape I've got." And
Yeah.
so people could become like famous. Like Daniel Johnston was a musician who he was making cassette tapes of his music. He was mailing them out, and he became a cult celebrity doing that, and people did that, writing books too. There was also, like, back in the day, there were open mics where people could go to open mics and read their stories and their books. And they so that there was a path. What there wasn't was all the competition, because nowadays, yes, you're right, there's a lot of competition. When you put your stuff online, like, it immediately gets buried in all the other stuff. Like, the way internet algorithms work is, like, the internet's a giant popularity machine, where it points, like, if something is popular, the internet rewards it with more popularity, and it rises up and up and up and up. And if something is unpopular, the internet rewards it with more obscurity. It sinks down and down and down and down. So what there ends up being is, like, how they say, like, there's a disparity of wealth or whatever, like a wealth disparity. Like, on the internet, there's like a popularity disparity or a visibility disparity, where it's the visible and the invisible, and there's very little that's in between the two. Then, what the internet did was it brought in like the paid ads. So now, instead of it just being like organic popularity or algorithms or whatever, people can pay a lot of money and put their thumb in the scale and automatically make themselves very popular. And that's why Amazon is so messed up right now, because, like, it used to be like, pre-pandemic, even like at the beginning days of the ads, that it was like, algorithms and organic popularity pushing the popular things high and the unpopular things low. But once the ads came in, and, anybody who wanted to, who had a lot of money, could just put that money into the ads, and people spend a lot of money on these ads. They don't even care. They'll just like blow like $5,000, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, my book is visible. I'm famous." So,
You're not even getting a return on investment on that, or is it just like
I
for
don't,
an ego?
I don't even do the ads because I don't get a return on investment in them. Like, I've experimented with them, like, and it's garbage. Like I spend like $10 and make $1. Like, and I'm like, oh shit, I've got to turn this ad off. It's junk. And like the newsletters that just go out to the masses, like, I don't like those either. Like, those are just good ways to like reach the wrong audience. So I mean, there's no real good answer. Like, I hate social media, but it's the only way to reach people in a real way. And
these days, anyway.
yeah,
Who knows
and
what's
I
going to come
guess,
next?
yeah, well, I don't know what's next. I guess, like, I'll put in my brain implant and like go into your brain and say, "Buy my book, please."
Oh God.
And at least with social media, you can reach people.
Marketers, that is not a suggestion. Do not take that idea and run with it.
Yeah, this is. But you could actually upload my book to your brains. You like, if people are reading books with their brains, you got to go where they're reading, and that's their brains.
Yeah.
Um,
The eyes are just how we use that, how we put them in.
Yeah. You like I guess I could do like in-person events, but I haven't done anything like that in such a long time. Like when I was in Hollywood, like I was all about like going to in-person events and stuff. It never really did me any good. I mean, I wasn't really accomplishing that much when I was in Hollywood. I was just like distracted by everything, and there's too much going on. So it's
Mhm.
like it's better that like I just isolate myself and focus on my writing. Like it's better for my writing, and my writing is very important. So it's also better for civilization that I do this, and
Oh, there you
I
go, right
need to
there.
keep, yeah, I need to keep this responsibility, like in my heart, like
Yeah.
just in my mind
Yeah.
that like I'm really holding everything up with my great works of literature.
Well, there you go. I mean, I think really ultimately word of mouth is probably the best marketing of all because A, you're reaching the audience that you want because people are going to say to their friends, hey, you like this? Here's this other thing that you might like, and you can trust me because I'm your friend and I'm not trying to screw you over and try to make this guy money. I might not even know this guy, or even, really know what the book is, know anything previously, but I know this book is good, so why don't you check out this other guy, other stuff this guy's written?
But haven't all of the paid online influencers kind of like pissed in that Cheerio bowl? You
Well,
know,
I'm not talking about influencers. I'm just talking about, people offline or just, people talking to each other, because it's, yeah, there's been a whole bunch of people who've, screwed the pooch on that one, but I don't think necessarily completely enough to, certain people who are at least trusted in their particular, track, so to speak. Because there are still plenty of people who have at least enough integrity not to just, take whatever they're paid for, or, who are known to have certain particular tastes. Because that's the thing about, any kind of reviewer, online or otherwise, myself included. You cannot take what they say as gospel unless you can actually identify what they like and don't like. Because, if someone has, really terrible taste, then you can probably use them as a pretty good barometer for something that's going to be really, really bad if they like it.
Yeah. So let's take this. Let's say Avion Water, hires me. Okay. So now I'm an employee of Avion Water. So I dress up, I, go to the bar and like I'm at a nice swanky bar and like, there's a chick there. So I go up, I say, hi, you want me to buy you a drink? And she says, sure. So I buy her scotch. I say, I love to put in my scotch just one drop of Avion Water. Avion Water has the pure, crisp taste that really brings out the flavor of the scotch. And maybe I've got a recording in my pocket, like my cell phone, and picks it up. So I show this to Avion, and Avion says, "Okay, great. Here's your $100." And so I'm like, "All right, I've made $100 this."
Yeah, but you just screwed up your date for sure. Yeah. Because that sounded like the moment you started saying that, I was just like, okay, this sounds like ad copy.
Yeah. So maybe people can do that with books too. Maybe they could, but like on Facebook or whatever.
Mhm. Well, I'm sure, but I'm talking more like, dude, you got like someone who just reads a book that they like and they talk to their friends like, dude, you got to read this. This is so cool. And just, do that. Or
Yeah.
like someone asks someone, a random person, like, on the internet, hey, you got any recommendations for this particular genre? It's like, yeah, I liked this one, this one, this one, this one. Yeah, you can check those out if you want. I'm not talking about like, like paid influencers or anything like that. Just, like random chatter, so to speak, the,
Yeah, no, I mean that is all the most important thing,
mm,
and I'm lucky that I write books that people talk about, and I think one thing people need to do is to just know that like if you want people talking about your books, you need to write books that the kind of books that people talk about, and those are books that kind of surprise you, do something different, or like because like if you want critics to write about you, you have to give critics something to write about. You can't just do the same thing because
mm.
then critics are going to say, oh well, this movie did the same thing, or this book did the same thing. But I do want people talking about my books, and lately people have been less comfortable expressing themselves online than they have in the past, and that's moved into like everything, whether they're talking about like books or movies or culture, anything. And the reason that they're not comfortable is because if you say like the wrong thing or you misspeak, you can get like mobbed, and that's not fun. Um, and I've had those experiences myself where like, like I'm like, in a discussion and maybe I say something and somebody takes it the wrong way. And then, like some people start trying to gang up on me. And, that's not a good experience. Like I've never been canceled or anything, but everybody's had that experience of, on the internet of having that
Hmm.
happen to them. And what that does is it makes people not want to express themselves as much in the future. And I find that happening with myself too, where like I used to be much more expressive on the internet than I am now. Now I'm much more reserved. And the reason is because of a few of those ugly transactions that kind of just soured it for me. It turned it off for me. Like it didn't even scare me off. It just made me feel like "Ugh, I don't really want to go through this. So
Yeah.
many people have been soured by that, but I think it's kind of changing. It's going back in a way, and people are becoming more conversational again
Hmm.
because, like, that specter of being canceled or having people like take what you say the wrong way. Like, I think it's kind of like it's reversing. Like, I don't see it happening as much
Yeah.
in my
Or at
own.
least people, more people aren't quite as fearful of it happening because they've come to realize that the internet is big enough that even if a portion of it despises you and decides, to completely turn you away, there's always going to be another bunch out there who who might be interested in you precisely for that reason because they don't like the people doing it, or there's just people who are like, oh, something happened to the X guy. Why? Oh, he wrote a book. Oh, let's look. Hey, this is cool.
Yeah.
What's that old line? There's no such thing as bad press. I mean, there is, but it all depends on how you take it, I suppose.
Yeah, but no, I agree with you 100%. Like the most important thing is word of mouth, and the most important thing is having people talk about your books. And they can do that in many different ways. They can write like reviews on Amazon or Goodreads, but they can also just tell their friends on Facebook or Twitter or any of the other social media sites that because there are many options out there right now that like I read this book, it's good, you should read it too. I dug it, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I agree completely. But I've been like I do pretty well, like because like I raised like $3,188 on Kickstarter, and probably I would say most writers would struggle to do that. Would you? So like I did well, and I get good word of mouth, and I was able to do that because I do have fans who read my books who wanted to see me, edit this book and wanted to see it happen, and so, now that it's published, like it's still selling. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was worried. I thought, like before it published, I thought like, oh no, all of my fans have already bought the book through Kickstarter. Who's left to buy it once it hits the bookstore? But it's selling really well.
Yeah, there you go.
It's selling very good. And
Well,
I
because
think
not
it's
everybody knows about the Kickstarter, obviously, because it hasn't hit the major publication platforms, and that's
yeah,
where they go to look for books, and not on Kickstarter.
yeah, there's that. But I did like mention the Kickstarter. I'm on all the social media platforms. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I mentioned it on all of them. But the reason it's selling is because there are so many other great authors in this book who
Mm-hmm.
have fans too. And readers want to read their stories. That's why I think the book is selling because it's surprising me. It's doing a lot better than I thought it would be, given that like so many of my fans had already bought it.
Well, I'm glad to
So
hear that.
yeah, it's especially doing well on Ingram Spark is the platform I use to distribute my books to bookstores, and for some reason, like bookstores are ordering this book
Hmm.
to sell it. That surprised me. Because that usually happens to me a little bit, but not like it's happening now. Now the way like bookstore sales work is it's kind of like I don't know. This is like it's not a good deal for writers for self-published authors. But it's a system that's been around since the Great Depression, and where it works is like the bookstore orders the book, and then if they can't sell the book, they destroy it and mail the cover back to the publisher, and then you have to pay. I have to pay for that. So,
Hmm.
I could make a lot of money this quarter, only have to pay it back a year from now. I don't know, but So it's not the best deal, but it can also be good if people actually go and buy it. And especially like I'd be worried if like one bookstore bought like a whole bunch of copies, but like a whole bunch of bookstores buying one each. I think many bookstores will be able to sell this book. I
Yeah.
just hope they
Ladies and
don't.
gentlemen, support your local bookstores.
Yes, yeah. And all in the U.S. and well, probably because I only do the U.S. and U.K. But for this kind of distribution, but yeah. So that is working out really well. I'm selling on Kindle. It's most of my readers are on Kindle, so the Kindle. It's not the worst that I've ever done. It's not the best that I've ever done, but yes, that's your Kindle.
Yeah, it's a present for my wife from way back. So always good
Wow.
stuff to have. I mean, it's just really handy to have. I mean, there's obviously the downside of not having the physical book in the sense like, if I run out of batteries, this thing is pretty much just a paperweight rather than the library. But the fact that I can have hundreds of books in there that can, just carry around with me, including some that I've not been able to find in paperback because they're older or something like that, or simply not available. I mean, it's a handy thing to have around.
Absolutely. Project Gutenberg is great for that. You can upload those books to your Kindle and you can start reading like, old classics that you'll never find in paperback.
Yeah. Or if you do, they're in such poor condition due to, having been passed through so many hands over and over
Try,
again.
try finding like Thornton Smith, like in paperback. And, this is findable copy, but, you can just find this on, I mean, probably not this book. You
Yeah.
can probably find the Topper books, and you can just read them. And, that's great. Like, having all the classic books just right in your hands. And it's great for readers who don't have a lot of money, or who don't have a lot of space to keep a lot of books, or who don't live near some place that's selling books.
Which these
So
days, for older paperbacks, stuff like that, can be pretty hard, admittedly. I mean, the number of actual used bookstores that not only are in existence, but also carry books that I want to read in my particular, niche subgenres that I'm more or less obsessed with. It kind of gets difficult after a while.
yeah. Now, I mean, there's the counter argument to this, which is that the Kindle actually like killed all of these things.
Mm.
Like like you're saying, like the democratization of publishing. Like before, there's the Kindle, and like there were all the small presses. There was like hundreds and hundreds of small presses, and
Yeah.
each one was they were all doing different things and interesting things. And many of them were able to become like businesses doing that. And then like Kindle came around and like chased off all the small presses.
Yeah. Well,
And
I'm
you
not
can
saying
also
it's all good. That's for damn sure. I mean, any kind of change like this, any kind of like serious revolutionary change of any kind is going to have side effects, whether intended or otherwise.
yeah, no, that is true.
Mm.
But I tend to get like negative about the internet. I shouldn't. I should be very positive about the internet because like it's where I sell these books and it's where like I make these books and it's where my audience is. So I should be very positive about it. I should stop being negative about it. I should just just become one of the internet people. Because but
Well, it depends what kind of internet people. Trust me, there's certain internet people you don't want to be.
like who don't I want to be?
Oh, you know.
Well, okay, I don't want to be those internet people, but I should stop being so negative about the internet because like what it comes from is like so like I was like when I was living in Hollywood and like people would get like really obsessed with Facebook, okay, in like 2013, 14, and like Facebook would like have this like reverse feedback on people where people would be like, I want to be a movie star. So they would write on Facebook that they were movie stars. And then they would see what they wrote on Facebook that they were movie stars. And it would go back into them and they would start to believe that they were actually movie stars.
Believe
So
in the
like
hype.
yeah, and then they would have this like effect on them where they no longer had to work to become the thing they wanted to be because they believed they were already that thing. And that's actually the theme of Jungle Jitters and the theme of Into the Bush. That's the theme of these books. actually. It was about like, that experience. So like, and also there was so much drama going on then. And through like the recent times, just like constant. And like now I think you can like find certain communities where there isn't as much drama as other communities, but then it was just ubiquitous. It was everywhere. And so like I had like, like all of these negative experience. And the other thing I saw was people using the internet in order to rise really quickly, but then the internet would suddenly like pull the rug out from under them and they would go like tumbling back down. So it seemed like something that like deluded people into thinking they were something they were not. Gave people like a false sense of confidence, and just shot people up to stardom only to shoot them down again.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really seemed like a dangerous thing to me, and it seemed like it was more of a liability than it was a asset. And I
Yeah.
still have this mindset now, even though like I'm using the internet to do pretty much everything, like I can't escape this mindset I have that it's something dangerous and something to, be wary of.
I mean, you're not entirely wrong in that regard. I mean, what I'm doing right now, all these interviews and videos and stuff, I'm keeping this as just a hobby, really. I'm not making any money doing this or, getting any kind of revenue from it. I got an actual job that I do, to pay the bills and, keep a roof over my head and my family. Because you have to remember that, again, as you mentioned with algorithms and stuff like that, we don't have full control over the extent of the reach and of the view that we have over this. It's in the hands of programs and algorithms and
Yeah.
the companies that own the platforms that we're using in order to do this stuff. YouTube, Amazon, regardless. So it's good to use these tools that we have, but to remember that they are tools. They have no inherent moral value in and of themselves. It's all in how you use them and on how aware of you are of how they're using you. Because if you're not paying for something on the internet, you are the product, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah, the internet's using you. And then, the other thing, like the owners of these platforms, like they have their own ideologies and their own values. And, they really do try to impose those on the users of the platforms.
Mhm.
And, this is universal. This is not, just one platform
Yeah,
doing it. It's just,
and they're not wrong to do so because they own the platform by
yeah,
right. They have every right to do so. It's just the main problem is when you try to create another platform with that more value, that more reflects what you want out of something. Well, depending on how successful it is, more well-established platforms are going to start screwing with you a little bit, depending on how they function with the algorithm. But that's a whole other can of worms right there.
but I mean, like, because like you are right. Like even like when you're saying like, yeah, word of mouth is important. Like I was like pushing back on that. Like I was arguing with that, and I shouldn't because like word of mouth is important. It's like my bread and butter. It's like my job. So like I do need to change my mindset about that and to just kind of reframe it somehow to make the internet like a more positive thing for me, to make it work for me, because
Hmm.
like I use it a lot. Like I'm always on the internet. Like right now, like I'm posting for my book. I'm posting the illustrations, I'm posting about the stories, I'm, posting the reviews that it gets, and I'm like, I'm doing everything, like screen capping the Amazon reviews and posting them to Twitter and Blue Sky and Threads and Notes and Facebook and just all of them. I'm on all of them because I think it's important to reach everybody, especially in like a fragmented social media environment. Like I think it's important because everybody is in different places and I want to be in all those different places to reach them all. So like I'm really like plugged in right now and really like online right now. So like I can't go and do that and have a negative attitude about it. I need to
Yeah,
somehow say like I'm grateful for the internet. Thank you, internet, for everything that you allow me to do and accomplish.
yeah. Thank you, internet,
Yes.
but I'm watching you.
Yeah.
Uh, so right now you have Sword Scandal has just gone to stores. As you said, it's been doing great. Your next project is going to, as you said, Jungle Scandals. It's more the jungle adventure kind of genre rather than sword and sorcery.
Yeah. Well, Well, so what I want to do is like the scandal is the genre. So the genre is called the scandal. This is Sword and Scandal. It's a play on Sword and Sandal, like the old Sword and Sandal movies. But I want to take the scandal and make that a movie. So I want to be able to do like jungle scandals, where it's like stories set in the jungle, like scandal set in the jungle. And then I want to do like a science fantasy one, maybe like planet scandals is what it might be called.
Planet of the Scandals or something like
Planet
that.
of so that's. I was thinking like there's a magazine called Planet Stories, and I was thinking Planet Scandals, but Planet of Scandals maybe like Planet.
That can work too.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. I want to do another
Yeah,
one
one
that's
thing at a time first.
yeah. I want to do one called Scandals and Sorcery, which is like Sword and Scandal. It was Sword and Sorcery one. Another so like I've got a lot of ideas. I want to do one at a time. I'm also working on writing the third Action Girls book. This is the first one. This is the second one. The third one is called Space Escapades, and it's the outer space one. So I'm like writing that one right now. I'm probably like 15,000 words into it, maybe. And I've got like the next big chunk outlined. Last week I worked on like the outline for the next chunk. This week I'm going to write that chunk, and then I'm going to work on the outline for the end, and then I'm going to write the end. So like I hope to be able to publish that early next year. So like what I want to do is I want to do the Jungle Scandal Kickstarter like over mid-January to mid-February. Then February is going to be the writing period. And during the writing period, before they submit, like February and March, I want to put out the Space Escapades. Then I'm going to have the submission period over March and April, and then publish Jungle Scandals in like April, and like I'll need to fulfill the Kickstarters like March, April, May, June, probably maybe in June or July. So that's kind of like where my plan is, and but I'm going to need to like I write out my plans, and I'm going to need to write that out so that I can actually do it. And that's another important thing, like to organize, like just write out a schedule for yourself, like what I want to do this month and what I want to do this month, and try to keep to it. And that's a really good help to organize. So like with the Kickstarter, like once I develop the Kickstarter, like the next thing is like promoting it. And to promote it, like I used all my social media platforms, and I used like I used to have a newsletter on Mailchimp, and I migrated it to Substack because Mailchimp was like very expensive and Substack is free.
That's definitely a bonus right there.
They sold it to their pricing used to be like it used to be reasonable, but then what happened was the owners wanted to sell it. So like just to show off, they just like raised the prices, and then they sold it into it, which does QuickBooks. And it's I don't.
So they basically like jacked up the price subscriptions to inflate their value for potential investors.
Yeah, in order to sell the company. Which like if you're a founder and you're like I want to get out of this thing, like that's not a I mean, that's the strategy that they use, but
it's also a dick move.
Yes, because it's used. But luckily, around the same time, a free product that did the same thing better came around. So now I use Substack to do that, which is kind of ruining itself with its notes section, but whatever.
Nothing's perfect.
Yeah, and nothing lasts forever too. Like they're always changing. Like the platforms are always evolving, and so just like keep up with what's happening, and keep current because like a lot of times people on the internet that get stuck in one thing. So like you can tell like when somebody like really like hit their stride on the internet, like if they're talking like it's 2014 or talking like it's 2016 or talking like it's 2012. Like if they get on the internet like and start like doing something at that time, they're going to continue to talk like that throughout. So you can kind of like age people just by how they talk on the internet. Like everyone on the internet thinks like, oh, when I was on the internet, we had memes. There are no memes anymore. But that's not true. It's just that they're not recognizing the new memes because they're in like this one circle.
They don't get the references anymore because they're not based on
they're
their kind of culture that they absorb through osmosis.
Yeah, they're not current anymore. So I think like people can get stuck, and it's important not to get stuck and to keep on like innovating and moving to other places and like just looking around and never getting like in a rut.
Mhm.
And that's not just true on the internet. That's true in life too. Like people get in ruts like in real life. Where like they get a job and like they're just going to the job every day and working every day and then coming home and like just like doing this like schedule, blah blah blah, and they just like never, there's no variation or change, and then one day they realize that they're old and their whole life flew by them. Oh well, too bad.
Yeah, they just end up buying a Ferrari and getting hair implants and a gold chain and just
Wow,
going up
not
from
a bad
there.
idea. Like the hair implants. Maybe I could do something.
Trust me, I know what you mean. I'm just lucky to have good lighting that kind of conceals that right now.
Yeah, well, what's good? Like minoxidil, like it'll get it growing up here. Like minoxidil. It's great. And
I think I'm just gonna gracefully let myself, I get older. I seem to be relatively well conserved as it is, so I'm just gonna hope that lasts for a
yeah,
while.
me too. Like I don't think I look I don't think I look old, but you know, um, I think I look younger than I am. I don't want to give away my age. I don't want to age myself, but I think I look older. I don't think I look that bad for my age. I mean, considering
Well,
like
yeah. Well, I can tell, from you've got the youthful attitude at the very least. So that goes a long way, I think.
yeah, I've always had that. Like I've always had like like an exuberance and like a joy for life. And like sometimes I don't. Like sometimes I get like into like a depressive mood or whatever. But generally, I think my overall attitude has always been very very positive. And that's like what allows me, because like there's a lot of people who like they publish a few books and they don't sell well and they get discouraged and they
Mm,
stop and they start whining, and like you see that on the line online, like all the
yeah.
pity, like, oh, I've been publishing books for 5 years now and each book sells worse than the last. Oh, I'm not gonna write any more. You don't
I've
want
had
to do.
videos that have gone into the thousands overnight. I've got videos that just now cracked 100 views.
Well,
I have no idea why sometimes. I don't really care. So,
okay.
I mean, I'm thankful when I get a lot of views on these things and a lot of people commenting and stuff, but honestly, I do this because it's fun and I just enjoy doing it. So, hey, there you go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't actually like make a living writing books. I break even writing books basically. I mean, because like there is overhead. You have to pay the artist, and with the publishing, I like to branch out because like I want to grow, and like in business, like if you're not growing, you're shrinking. So it's important to always grow.
Mhm.
So like I've been growing a lot in terms of self-publishing and building my audience. And now like in terms of editing, like there's the artistic reason that I want to do it because I want to, expand my vision and how far it can reach. But there is also the business part of it that like I also want to expand how far I can reach in the business part of it. And so I want to bring in, new readers to read my books. Because like artistically, like I have a vision of what I want to do in the anthology and I want to fulfill that vision and I want to see it become a reality. But business wise, like I'm reaching people with my books, doing it all by myself, like just 100% just me, and I can reach so many more people if I bring more people along
Mhm.
for the ride, because then they're all going to be reaching people too, and hopefully it's going to help the other authors too, because like my readers will discover them and want to buy more of their books as well.
Which encourages
So
those authors to want to come back to do further
yes,
anthologies.
yeah, because like I know when I publish in Cursova, when I get a Cursova story published, that brings me a lot of readers. Okay. Like so many people will say to me that they discovered me from a story in Cursova.
Mhm.
And so, hopefully my books, if I can, make them, become big, my authors in my books are going to have people telling them that too. I discovered you in a Scandal anthology book. So that'll help them, and it'll also hopefully help me because they all have fans, and their fans are going to be like, oh, I want to read your story. I want to read this book. And they'll discover the book. And then they'll discover the other authors in the book, including me.
Yeah. Mr. Weischel, we just did 2 hours.
Wow, that is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 11:02. I think we started a little late, though. I think we started like.
Yeah. Well, I'd say we did a pretty damn good interview here because we just covered I was just really coming in just talking about the book, but we talked about publishing, about all this stuff that really all this behind the scenes stuff with this.
Forget to talk about the book. Did I forget to talk about this?
No, I believe you did mention it once or twice.
Okay, good. Yeah, I always
Speaking of the book, where can people get it?
Okay, so the most of my books, ebooks are wide, but this one is a little more racy than the others. So this one, you can get this on Amazon, and you can get it on the bookstore Godless. Godless is a cool indie horror bookstore that is owned by a guy named Drew Stepek. He's really into metal and satanic imagery and stuff, and he brands the bookstore with pentagrams and all the satanic stuff.
Yeah, you know what you're getting.
Yeah, it's a really cool vibe, and and it's completely indie too. It's got no connection to a big tech company. So you can also get it on Amazon, and you can read it straight on your Kindle, which is also a great way to buy it. So that's the ebook. The physical book you can get pretty much anywhere. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes and Noble. You can get it at Books A Million or Half Price Books. Just go to the website and order it to be delivered to your home or to be picked up at the store. And that goes for overseas too. You can if you live in the UK, you can order it Waterstone or whatever that UK chain is called, or wherever you live, and you can just order it. Just go to your local bookstore, search Sword and Scandal, or search J. Manfred Weichsel, or probably search Sword and Scandal because that's easier to spell. So you can go there and you can search that and you can find it, and then you can buy it. The paperback is $19.99. The hardcover is $29.99. The ebook is $3.99. Most of my books are
good
cheaper.
Prices.
Yeah. Most of my paperbacks, I like to publish them at $9.99. But with the Kickstarter, I had to price them higher for the Kickstarter because I needed to figure out how much I needed to make in order to break even. And I can't give it one price on the Kickstarter and then sell it at a lower price in the store because then all the Kickstarter backers would feel like I was ripping them off.
Yeah, I've seen that happen before. It's never pleasant to see. It gets ugly quick.
So the reason this book is priced, and it's also there's more overhead in this book. I have to pay the authors. There's interior illustrations, which most of my books don't have. So the money did go into producing the book. So there's more money that went into this book. So it's just overall higher more money went into the book, so it costs more money to buy. That's capitalism.
There you go.
Yeah, I think. That's where you can get it. You can get it on Amazon. You can go to Amazon right now. You can, if you have Amazon Prime, you can order it, have it delivered. It'll be in your mailbox in 6 hours. Okay.
There you go.
And you can get it anywhere. So that is where to get the book. And I really hope you get it too, because Sword and Scandal is a really good anthology. And it's the beginning of something new. I did, I want to do more of these Scandal anthology series. I need to build up the readership for these series, quickly over this book and the next few in order to do that. So I really do need to get a lot of people buying this book and reading it so that I can, build this series up really quickly and continue to do it because there is a lot of overhead to make these books. And if I were able to get to a point where the books were selling so well that I made enough just selling them to not have to do a Kickstarter, the overhead would go down and the time that it took to create these books would go down, and I'd be able to do a lot more of them. So that's really like what my goal should be would be to like, okay, so I'm raising like $3,000 on Kickstarter. I should be like, making like $1,500 selling these books, so like $3,000 selling these books, and then like I could make a little bit of profit so that I could continue to do this, and really focus on it. And I would also be able to just continue to edit more anthologies and to write more books and to publish them. So like that should be my goal. Like Kickstarter is great and it's wonderful to give me that kickstart to do these, but like I really should be working to turn it into a viable commercial product so that I can continue to do it even without Kickstarter.
Well,
So buy it.
Yeah, you heard the man. Go out there and buy it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the kind of book that you would be interested in. Go check it out. This has been J. Manfred Weischel. I have been Zero Sum. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for coming on the show. It's been great. This was a long time coming after my computer. We were going to try this much earlier during the Kickstarter, but my computer fucked up, so that didn't help.
Yeah, and it is a really good book. I guess I just talked about like the business stuff. I don't know. Is your audience more interested in the business side? Are they interested at all? Or
I mean, I think people are very interested in this kind of stuff too, because anybody can really just talk about the stories of the and this in a book is like, this is what the book is about. This is what the story is. But knowing all this stuff is fascinating, at least for me. So that's always interesting.
Right. So yeah, I mean, each story in this book is incredible. Like I got a lot of submissions, and I got a lot of good ones, and it was tough to pick like the best. And so each story in this book really is one of the best. They're funny, they're entertaining, and just go check it out, pick it up. They are NSFW, so be warned. But this is a really good book, and I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, well, you should be.
Right.
So, again, thank you for coming. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And, well, go check out his book, and I will see you next time.
All right. Well, thank you very much. It was a good one. Good chatting. All right.